our sponsor, Parati's Quality Meats, located in Cranford, New Jersey, serving customers all over New Jersey for the past 50 years. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Coach's Talk presented by the Shore Football Report. And you know who I am. I'm Coach Rob Davis. And we have two special guests today representing Manchester Township High School football program. And they're two guys I have a lot of respect for and have a lot of knowledge, and they're a good asset to this football program. It's Rich Stratton and Tom Malek. Thank you very much for coming on the show today, guys.
Thanks for having us, Coach.
Hey, thanks for having us there, Rob.
Yep. Coach Brian Wilkinson wanted you two to be on the show because he wanted to showcase his great coaching staff that you guys are a part of. And he's very, very proud of not only you guys, but the program and the direction it's going in. So you guys should be pretty pumped too, right?
Absolutely. We're ready to go.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I don't know how he got on there. If he said great, he must have accidentally said my name, but I'll take it.
Let me just introduce you guys separately, and then we'll get right into the process part of it. Rich Stratton up top is one of the best O-line coaches out there that I know of. And he has a unique way of coaching, and he gets a lot out of it. He's a champion. He's a winner. 28th year coaching football. And he has 9 division championships, 2 state titles. Let me just run down where you were at. You played ball at Central Regional High School at Lacey for 18 years. You were assistant coach, and there you won 7 championships, division championships, and 2 state titles. Then you went to Mondon for 1 year. You were at Tom River South for 7 years and won a division title. And then now you're at Manchester in your 2nd year where you won a conference championship last year. The other thing about Coach Stratton is that he won 4 state sectional championships as a Tom River South bowling head coach and 1 short conference overall championship and 1 division championship. But more importantly, he's a loyal Tom River South assistant softball coach for 7 years for yours truly down there. Yeah, you, Tom Malek. Let's talk about Coach Tom Malek. Played at Tom River South High School, and both of you played at Rowan too, correct?
Glassboro.
Glassboro. Yep. We're showing our age a little bit now.
Right, that's all right.
Coach Malek coached at Haddonfield for 1 year, went to Lacey for 11, 6 division championships. Pretty good situation right there with that. Tom River South he went to for 8 years. Went to Jackson Liberty for 2 more years to coach, and then went back to Tom River South for 2 years and won another division championship there. Took 7 years off and came back, and this is your 2nd year at Manchester, and you also won 1 division championship. So total, you have 8 division championships in your 26 years. You've been the softball coach, head coach for 14 years. And you've coached basketball everywhere you've been at too. So you're well-rounded coaches all year round. But today we have 2 combined coaches with 17 division championships and 2 state titles. That's a lot of gold in this interview right here. Guys, thank you for coming on this show right here. So you must be excited too, huh?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And we'll get started.
Let's talk about the process. And we're going to start out with Coach Tom Malek. Tom, you start off the process. This part of the show is real simple. I like talking about you guys and how you got to where you're at. You know, you don't just press a button and you don't just get where you're at just for the luck of the draw. Just like with kids, you got to earn everything you get, and you worked and you have steps to where you became the Manchester football coach right now. Take us right through a timeline of your resume and how you started football right when you played Pop Warner right to where you are right now, and a little bit about each stop.
All right. Well, let me first say I did not play Pop Warner. My first experience playing football was when I entered high school South. And growing up as a kid, I always wanted to go to South. We used to go to the games as a little kid, and it was like an event. So I couldn't wait till high school came. So that was really my first experience was playing for high school South. And I was fortunate that I played high school South with some really, really good coaches, and we were very successful. But the head coach was Chip LaBarca, but I was coached by Coach Wilbert, Coach Basso, Coach Tyler Cool, Coach Rankin, Coach Lloyd. There was a lot of really good coaches that I played for, and we were successful. So I had a great taste. I loved it. I loved practice. I loved everything about football. So, I never had aspirations necessarily playing in college and stuff like that when I was in high school. But as, my senior year came, we were very successful. We won a state championship. Talking to some of the high school coaches, they said, you could play at the next level, not the big time level. So I got Glassboro came and they asked, they wanted me to play or whatever. So we went to Glassboro, and again, I had another great experience playing there. Had some great coaches. We weren't necessarily as successful at Rowan as we were at Townsville South, but the coaches and the whole process of practice still loved it. They left you wanting to leave. They left you leaving practice wanting more, not like wanting to go home. So the competition, the competitiveness of practice, the coaches being so good. I really love it. I played high school linebacker and then went to college and played a safety. So like totally drastic different positions. And I had a great coach in college, Ike Smith. And John Bunning was one of the coaches. Casey Keeler is the head coach of Sam Houston State.
Tom, didn't you play with Phil Longo too?
Phil Longo was on that.
And he's the OC at
now he's the OC at North Carolina. So I had a lot of great experience. John Bunning was the head coach for 1 year. He was the head coach at North Carolina. He was defense coordinator when the Rams won a Super Bowl. So I've come across, and we had other great coaches: Felton Jones, Ted Kirshner, a lot of great guys. But my position coach in general really, I think, started the bug of me wanting to coach. Ike Smith. And I don't know if there's a guy that ever played for him that probably wouldn't say the same thing I would say about him, but he was just such a great teacher. He'd push you, but he was just such a great teacher. I had such great respect for him. Really enjoyed it. I worked a couple football camps for Casey Keeler my junior and senior year, and that was kind of my first taste of coaching. So I got into teaching. I got into the teaching field because I wanted to continue coaching because I knew my career was ending once college was over. So I had 1 year left after my eligibility was over, so I coached at Haddonfield High School down there while I was student teaching. Had a great experience, coached with a couple friends of mine that I played football with in college. And then I moved back home, got offered a teaching job by Lacey a couple days before school started. I was originally going to coach football at Townsville South freshman, but a teaching job for myself luckily kind of opened up last second. There was a situation that came about, and I got hired. Lou brought me in, talked to me, and he hired me on the football staff. They had an opening. So I coached at Lacey for 11 years. And again, there was another great experience. We were always very competitive, and probably more than just competitive. We won, like I said, 5 or 6 straight division championships. We were always making a state tournament. I had a lot of great coaches besides Lou. Rich Stratton was on that staff. Ed Heffernan, Charlie Ryder, Chip Peterson, and yourself, Rob Davis. So I coached with you for 5 years. Keith Elias, his brother Brian, his brother Billy, coach. So we had a lot of great experience. And the great thing about playing football is the camaraderie with your teammates. Yeah. But then when you get into coaching, it's kind of the same thing. You get into it for the teaching of the kids and the camaraderie you have with the kids, and the same thing with the staff. We really got along. We had a great time, not only on the field coaching, but off the field, at meetings, and some of those meetings were long. We really got along, and it was a fun experience. Then I went to Townsville South. Opportunity opened up, and I coached there for 7 years with Coach Wilkinson, Coach Heffernan. I forgot to mention we also coached at South. He was also at South. Coach Stratton and a bunch of other guys, Mike Fumarola, Joe Osborne. Had a great experience there. And then, again, it seems like I'm moving around. Then went to coach at Jackson Liberty for a couple of years and coached with Coach Osborne, Tim, who coached at North. South North was always a big rivalry, so I didn't really know him real well. I coached with his brother, and after I was done at South, his brother said, "Hey, Tim would like to, talk to you about coaching with him at Jackson Liberty." So we went out to dinner, and he paid for dinner, so he had me sold right there. He was a great another. I've been fortunate. I played as a player, played for great head coaches and great assistant coaches, and when I coached not only with very good head coaches or great head coaches, but great staff. So it was fun experience. I never had a bad experience coaching. I really enjoyed myself. It's probably half the reason I never got married until I was much older in life, because I probably was more wrapped up into the whole football experience. But had a great time coaching at Jackson Liberty for a couple of years with Frank Giannetti, Jim Sharples, Lenny Zananowitz, who's the head coach at Brick. We coached there for a couple of years with my brother. And then came back to South for a couple of years. Then some things, my kids were kind of young, and I decided to kind of get away from basketball and football. It was just a lot of time with my kids being young, and enjoy the 7 years, having some free time to, have my time with them. They kind of were excited about me trying to get back into coaching football because they kind of like athletics. One of them does gymnastics. The other one is doing softball, and she's going to go out for tennis this year. So they like sports. They're excited for me to get back. So I said, you know what, talking to Brian, he had an opening on the freshman staff last year, and I thought that'd be a great opportunity to see, get my feet wet, see what it was like, and I really had a great time last year. And then he asked me this year to come up with the varsity and do the secondary, which he said I coached secondary when I was at Lacey. I haven't coached secondary since Lacey. At South, I coached linebackers, and at Jackson Liberty, I coached linebackers. So I'm kind of excited to get back to doing a secondary, which is where I played in college. So excited to be and Brian has assembled another great staff on defense with Paul Finlow and myself and Brian, and then on the offense staff with Charlie, Rich, and some of the other guys they have on the staff. It's going to be a fun. Amani is coaching. He's a recent Manchester grad. So I don't want to take away all Rich's time, which I'm going on forever. But it's been a great process. I'm excited for this year to see, being back, coaching a position secondary, which I did a little last year. I did as a freshman. I was doing both offense and defense, which was exciting. I was coaching offensive line and got a lot of help from Rich doing that last year. So, focusing on one position, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what we can do this year.
Tom, that's great. And Rich, we're going to get to you in a second. You hit a couple points, relationships. When we coach, I've learned that from you guys and that great staff we had at Lacey, that the relationship that we have with the players and the coaches extend off the field too. It really does. You two are tremendous player coaches, meaning you're not their friends, but those players will run through the walls for all of you. They really will. All right. Tom, you're very, very modest when you talk, but you have such an extensive resume that it just speaks volumes of you because you get a lot out of the kids' results. Now, Coach Stratton, I told you this before we went on the air. The one thing that you had when we were coaching at Lacey, I didn't know what it was, but you were so confident. And now I know what the word was. It was swag. You got swag. And now these kids, when I was coaching them, they would always say, "Coach, you know what swag is? I know what swag is. You got it. You got that. You got that confidence." And the kids go under that spell, and they do exactly the way you want it to be. And you get a lot out of those kids. And you're a very confident guy, and you have rightfully to be, because you've coached some very good football players, and you're doing an outstanding job with the Manchester O-line last year, and you're probably are just as excited this year with your players coming back. Coach, tell us about your process now on how you got to where you are at Manchester.
Okay, I had briefly decided to have a short resume and process, but after hearing Coach Malek, I'm going to start on the day I was born. No, realistically, not like Coach Malek, I got into football at a very, very young age. I came from a huge football family. Mm-hmm. My grandfather had two daughters. I was the first son. I was a grandson. So he had his opportunity to instill his love of football with me. And at an early age, I started watching football with him, and it became my passion. At 9 years old, I had the benefit of playing in North Bergen Pop Warner, and I played for a team called the Rams, and they went undefeated. So my first year, I played on an undefeated team that went 9-0, and we only gave up one touchdown for the whole year. So I think that had a lot to do with my the enjoyment I got out of playing football and the enjoyment I got out of winning, because I learned my first year playing how to be competitive and how to win, and it was a great way to follow. Then I ended up playing Pop Warner all the way through. I was on the first Pop Warner team in Lacey. I grew up in Lacey, mm-hmm. So it was a nice transition for me to coach there. I was a quarterback in the Pop Warner. I scored their first touchdown in their history on a quarterback sneak. I was more surprised than anybody that he called it, but it was exciting.
Did you call the play though?
No,
I heard
didn't call the play.
It wasn't a pitch and you goosed him and you went up there?
We called him from a sideline, and we never ran it at practice at all. And, we were like, it was against Southern. We were like 20 yards away, mm-hmm. Went on sound. Nobody moved but me. It was like kind of like the YouTube video you see of the kid taking a snap and just walking and taking off. It was that easy. It was that, incredible. But I had 2 great years at Lacey, and after that, I went to Central because there was no Lacey High School way back when. I just missed them opening up. So I went to Central. I had 4 great years there under the great John Gardy, who was my first mentor. One of the main reasons I decided I wanted to be a football coach because I admired him so much. But that was a great staff. We had Steve Healy and George Conti on that staff, all successful coaches for many, many years in high school football. So my senior year, we ended up winning the only Class A South championship in Central Regional history, and we ended up going undefeated in the conference, which was a big task. I did have my best game against Toms River South on their field, so that was a big moment for us. We only won 6-0, but it was a good game, memorable game. They outplayed us from one end of the field to the other.
Rich, I think I was at that game. I think I was 2 years old, and I remember being at that game.
I think you were a little older than 2, but that's okay. That's okay. So I did have some very great experiences in high school. I started as a quarterback because in Pop Warner I played quarterback. But at the end of my sophomore year, we knew that there was a kid coming up, and I saw that there'd be a good opportunity for me to play tight end, and I moved after my sophomore year to play tight end. I had 2 really good seasons at tight end, and that's where I started to learn a lot about blocking and becoming an offensive lineman. Because in high school football, when I played, if you were a tight end, if you caught 1 pass a game, that was a big game for you. So you were really just like an offensive tackle, just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
So that's where I first got my taste of blocking. And then I went to play at Glassboro College under the great Dick Wacker, who was a legend down there. And again, I went from John Gardy to Dick Wacker, both great head football coaches, and I learned a great deal from coaching from them. You know, it was a great way. I had a lot of respect for both men, and I loved the way they ran a program. And I learned how to be a coach and how to talk to players from both of those guys. So I had a good 4 years there. We were actually 5-5 for 4 straight years. Well, we always beat everybody in our conference, and then we got smothered when we went and played some of the bigger boys at a conference. But it was a great experience for me, and I learned a lot about football from playing in the college level. And, you know, playing at that was the perfect spot for me, and it was a good experience. Then I was very fortunate. I graduated Glassboro as a Rhodes Scholar, and I got an opportunity to coach at the Great Lacey Township. Just like Tom, I was looking to go coach somewhere else. I had a position that was available, and then I ran into Coach Versillo, and he coached my brother, so he did know me, and we had a conversation, and he goes, there is a spot open up, a teaching position, so he wanted me to interview. I interviewed it. The next day I got the job, and 18 years later, I had 18 great seasons with Lacey, learning from one of the best head coaches of all time. The things that I learned from Coach Versillo, where I learned a lot about X's and O's. That he is what I would consider a football guru. He understands, just by watching, he can pick things up and watching film. I learned how to watch film from him because we watched a lot of film.
We watched a lot, trust me. Yeah.
You guys remember those 8-hour meetings on Sunday and then 8 more hours on Monday. It's a good thing he fed us all the time. But, we watched a lot of film, and I was around a great staff. I was young, and all these guys were savvy coaches in the high school level. And he brought college coaches in like John Strallo, who was a great offensive line coach at the collegiate level, and I learned a great deal from him. He was very close with Coach Versillo, and I got the opportunity to learn how to coach offensive line with him. And I was fortunate. I never played offensive line before, and that was where I started coaching when I got to Lacey. And I studied, I worked, and I knew what it would take. We didn't have YouTube and all that back then. We had to do it the old way. We had to call people and pick their brains and go through X and O sessions and learn from people that knew more than we did. So I was a student of the game. And I learned from Coach V back then that's how you become better. You become a student of the game. And being around the staff that we had, which was second to none back then, we were very successful. A lot of people, I've won a lot of championships. I enjoy that. I like to win, and it's always excitable. Whether it's a conference championship, a state championship, short conference, it's always fun to win a championship. But I am smart enough to know that the reason that I won all those championships is not because I'm a great coach. I had great players. We were so fortunate at Lacey. We had not only great players, but we had players that bought in to what we were selling. They followed Coach Rosillo in our lead, and they were very coachable kids. They absorbed everything that we gave to them, and they took it to the next level. They learned. They worked hard. They were in the weight room all the time. They were football kids, and they were talented. And I always told them, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we started early, and we just got better and better and better as the season progressed. And we were always at our best when it came playoff time. And we were very successful in the playoffs. And it's not because of the coaching. It's because we had great kids that let themselves become coach. And you guys know as well as I do, the best thing now is seeing a kid you coached 25 years ago and the response and the rapport that you have with them to this day. They still talk about the old days and how much they things that you did that you never knew you did for them, and how grateful they were. And to me, that's one of the best things that I ever had. Then I went to Monsignor Donovan for 1 year, and I coached under Tom Farrell. And Tom Farrell was one of the best football coaches that I ever had an opportunity to coach with. He was an organized person. He taught me more about game planning, preparation, practice planning, and things that I needed to develop to become an offensive coordinator. So I stayed with him for 1 year, and then I got an opportunity. Coach Wilkinson called me and asked me if I'd like to come in and meet with him because he was interested in hiring me and looking to hire me as an offensive coordinator at Thompsonville High School South. And it was different because I had a lot to do with the offense at Lacey Township. I coordinated it at Monsignor Donovan, but this was an opportunity because coming from the Shore Conference, High School South, and that they have explosive athletic players. And I was really excited to have that. And my first year there was like I hit the lottery. We had the Dillard twins, Anton Carney, Josh Judash, Lonzel Neal, Alicia, the running backs. We were loaded offensively. And it didn't matter what I called because no matter what I called, they were so talented. They made it work. So I learned a lot from Tommy Farrell. But when I went and I watched Coach Wilkinson, you could see that him being in the college level, and he's a very articulate, bright coach, and he understands how to run a practice, how to run a program. And I learned a tremendous amount from him in the 7 years that I was there. And I would have still been there to this day if he stayed. And I would have been happy just being an assistant coach there and having that experience because South was a great place to coach at, and we had a great 7 years there. And then I was out for a few years because once Coach Wilkinson left to go to another school, they brought in a whole new staff, and he brought in his guys. So we were all out of football for the first time since I was 5 years old. I was out of football. I didn't know what to do with myself. So, each year, it was good because I got to spend a lot of time with our family because you guys know, football, it's a tremendous commitment, and it's a tremendous time commitment. And it does take away from your family, and you do miss some things. And I got to do a lot of those things now with all that time off. And as the years went on, I said, I'll never go back. I'm enjoying my life now. I'm enjoying my family. Mm-hmm. But then when Coach Wilkinson got the job at Manchester, he made a phone call to me, and, I kind of laughed him off and said, no, there's no way that I'm interested. I'm done. I'm retired. And he just kept sweetening the pot. And the more he talked about it, and the more he talked about the kids there, the more interested and excited I got. And then I finally decided, you know what, let me give it a year. Let me see how it is. And I'm telling you, probably the best decision I ever made, to be back in the arena, to be back on the field, to be back with that team that we had last year. It was a typical team that I've been very, very lucky to have the ability to coach year in and year out. And what an experience I had there. The kids are great. Love the community. Parents are awesome. And I'm going to be there as long as they want me to. So, that's how my path came from start to finish. And I'm happy where I am right now.
Yeah, I mean, both you guys have a really interesting path to where you're at. I'm very proud to say that I was associated with you guys, and you helped me out as a young coach when I went to Lacey and helped me understand what a cohesive staff was like and all that. And, I followed you when you guys left, and we all went our different paths. Right. And, I think we all did quite well. If you think about that staff that we were all with at Lacey, when we all left, we all did quite well right now. So that's a tribute to Coach Versillo, and most importantly, all the assistants, because every head coach is only as good as his assistants. And Coach Wilkie's got two good ones right here.
I would say some of my favorite times at Lacey was when you and I were on the headphones together. They were always enjoyable games. I was up top and you were on the field. And, we had some great conversations. But then I got to see you as a coach, and I was not surprised at all when you had the opportunity to start the Barnegat program, and they made a good choice. And you had a great run, and and I'm glad to see you're going to enjoy life a little bit. You're going to see what it's like
a little
to
bit
be on the other side. Yeah, you will.
And you know that, Coach.
This is great.
You two know when you guys coach with different guys, you take different things from every person, and then you're a different coach years later. You really are. Like just like we said with Coach Heff. I mean, you take his mannerism and how he talks to people, and he just demands the respect. He doesn't have to say anything, and everybody respects him. He can just sit there with his coffee, and
it doesn't end. It doesn't end when it's not just when you're a young coach. Even last year on the staff with being with Charlie Diskin, who's been a head coach most of his career. You got a guy like that on your staff, and that's who I work with on the offensive side of the ball. I still learn things from him, and it's great. And he has a great understanding of the offensive game, and he did a great job as the offensive coordinator last year. And I got to learn a lot of things about running this kind of an offense, from him. So I mean, like you say, just the coaches that you're with, it's always a learning experience, and you always can get better, and that's what we strive to do.
Awesome, guys. That's a good story with the process. All right, guys. Now we're going to talk in this part about the COVID, but I don't want to be negative anymore with the COVID. I'm sick of the COVID. I'm done with the COVID. I just want to hear something positive that came out of the Manchester Township football program during the COVID season, and with you guys learning your players for the first time, meeting them, and doing the COVID at the same time. Give me something positive.
You want to go first, Rich?
Yeah, realistically for me, the one thing was that we learned how to manage a practice with not having a full team most of the time. There was the time before the Lacey game where we had a situation where we lost 14 players that were in an exposure situation, and they were quarantined. So we didn't have a large number of players to begin with. We had a great number for Manchester. We're over 40, but then you lose 14, and you're trying to prepare for a week one game against Lacey Township, and you really don't even have a scout team anymore. Mm. But the way those kids rallied around and supported each other, it gave me a glimpse about what kind of kid the Manchester kid was, and the way that they rallied and worked and didn't utilize that as an excuse. They went above and beyond and turned it around. I got to learn a little bit about the character of a Manchester football player based on the ability to have to face a hardship before we even had our first game. Yeah. And the practices were different, and there were so many different things that football players were used to, but the way they overcame those things that were asked of them to do was remarkable. Cool. And as coaches, we did too. So if there's one thing that I did, I kind of learned what kind of kid I was coaching and how flexible they could be and how much they were able to overcome something that could have been a detriment to most teams.
You saw them overcoming some obstacles while you were doing it too.
Well, I think the big thing for me, coaching-wise, is using the Google Classroom to have meetings and sending them clips of practice, clips of game films, so you can break things down. So you didn't have to not only have the time on the practice field, but bring them in. We weren't allowed to bring them into the school. So it's kind of actually going forward, I think it's going to be better for the kids. They come to practice, do their time, and then you can send them, instead of having 30 or 40-minute meetings after practice, so it becomes long and it becomes a grind. The kids can go home, go eat dinner, do some schoolwork, and then you can have a meeting at 7 for 20 minutes just with your position guys, or you can send them clips and have them watch with notes. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, I think that was a good thing that came out of COVID, is learning how to make time not so much responsible for them to be at practice and then after practice. Allow them to go home right after practice and get stuff done, school-wise done, eat, family time, and then later on, hey, we sent you a 30-minute clip, and really it wasn't even 30 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, because you don't want to kill the kids with time. You don't want it to be a grind. Like I said to you before, one of the biggest things I learned from my college and high school coaches is I left practice wanting more. And I think with able to use Google Classroom, you have the ability even more to leave the kids wanting more, because you're sending them home. You're not like, oh, we don't have to stay and do this, that, and the other thing. No, we're going to send that to you. Go home, eat, get your schoolwork done, and we'll meet at 7:30 for 15, 20 minutes and go over what we want for the game plan. So that's, I think, the biggest positive that came out of COVID.
Okay, now we're going to talk a little 2021 Manchester Township high school football schedule. And then on the right-hand side, you see the division. Coach Strat, you want to walk us right through your schedule for next year?
Sure. We have our home opener against Monmouth Regional. To us, that's the only game on the schedule right now, because we do take them one at a time. The oldest philosophy in the book, but we definitely implement that at Manchester High School. So we're looking at that. The following week, I'm not even sure who we play. Oh, we're playing Barnegat, a school that you are familiar with. First time that I had an opportunity to play Barnegat was this year, and it was a very, very good game, and we were excited. I was excited about the opportunity to coach against you, because I never had that opportunity before, and that was a lot of fun. And two good football teams in that one. And then we go to Shore, a traditional Shore Conference powerhouse. Always a very good football team that runs a very good offense and defense. So we know that we will have them in our home stadium. Then we go to Point Barrow, who's supposed to be a very good up-and-coming team this year. Then we have Jackson Liberty, kind of a local school that is very in our proximity. So we have them in our place. We look forward to that. Then we have Asbury, who is a very athletic team that had a great season last year, and I'm sure they're even going to be much more improved this year. Then we play at Lakewood after that, and then we go to our pod play.
Yeah, nice.
At the completion of that.
Yes, Coach, that's right. That's a nice competitive schedule. Looking on the right-hand side of your screen is the division, the Patriot Division. Now, every year they change it up. So it's different than you're used to, the A South, B South. I mean, you guys have coached for 54 years combined. It's different. So now they just change people up, and you have to get readjusted to a new division. Just looking at that division right here, it seems very, very competitive from top to bottom. Would you agree?
I would think that every game on that schedule is going to be a game that we're going to have to work very hard to prepare for. There are good football teams on that in the Patriot Division from top to bottom. And to be honest with you, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
You know, to be the best, you have to beat the best. You have to play the best. And, you know, it's always exciting when you know that you're stepping on the field and you're going to be in a very competitive football game.
Yeah, that's going to be.
We're excited to be in this conference, and we're looking forward to starting out and opening up against Barnegat to open our conference schedule. And it's going to be competitive week in and week out, and that's what high school football should be. Yeah. That's what it should be all about.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
It's going to be
great division.
It's going to be it's also going to be a very fun division to cover this year for the Shore Football Report. Okay, now we're going to talk a little 2021 Manchester Township high school football coaching staff. So let's give Coach Brian Wilkinson's assistant coaches a little bit of PR. One of you guys go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about, because I'm coaching the defense side of the ball, so I'll just talk about the defensive coaches. Again, I'm going to be coaching the secondary this year. Coach Wilk handles the linebackers, and he's the coordinator for the defense. And Coach Paul Finlow, it does the defensive line. And like I said, last year I coached the freshmen, but I would come to occasional. I'd stay for the last 15 minutes after our practice done. Sometimes I'd come by and watch the varsity practice. I'd go to the varsity games. And I would go to each position and kind of watch different positions, how they coached. As a freshman coach, it was kind of good because I was doing both sides of the ball to kind of get a feel for all the coaches. So I got to watch Coach Finlow coach the D-line last year. And like I said, we did our whole process. He does an awesome job with those kids. It's always big about being a teacher as a coach. He is. But more than that, he has kids wanting to play for him. It's kind of like I remember when I was in college and in high school, I had great coaches, and it was more like I wanted to play for them. I wanted to perform more for them because I would be afraid if I didn't, I let them down. And that's the kind of impression I get watching Coach Finlow coach. He does a great job teaching, but I think those kids want to perform more because they don't want to disappoint him. And that's I think the best attribute you can give a coach. And I think that hits that right on the nose with Coach Finlow. I think he does a great job there. And again, of course, Coach Wilkinson, we talk a lot, lately more about defense. I've met with him a few times just because, again, I'm up with the varsity this year and just kind of getting on the same page with what he wants to do. He does a great job of really understanding the whole game in general as a head coach, but we're just talking about defense right now. But he does a great job with the linebackers. He does a great job of, breaking down film. And he's another guy that he delegates authority as a head coach. He lets his coaches coaches. He has his meetings. He goes over what he wants you to get done, but then he lets you go coach. He doesn't micromanage. So as a coach, that's great. You don't feel like somebody's watching over your shoulder. He knows that you're doing your job because he took the time to meet with you and go over what's expected. But now, hey, he lets you go and work. And so it's going to be fun this year being on that side of the ball. I mean, the other guys on offense, we do have interactions, Charlie, Rich, and Armani, the young guy that's going to be on the staff, but primarily going to be working with the defense guys. And I'm excited because, I think we have a good group that's going to put in the work. It's not going to be just one guy doing everything. I think each of us are going to be like a team and doing what to help our defense be as best we can possibly be.
Nice. Coach Strat, how about the offense?
Okay, I'm very blessed to have two coaches to coach with on the offensive side of the ball. I'll start with Coach Diskin, who coaches the quarterbacks, and he helps out with the running backs as well. He's a head coach at High School East for many, many years, and we were very fortunate to get him. He's been with Brian for several years now, and Brian was together with him at High School East. But he is our offensive coordinator, and he is definitely an old school coach. He understands the importance of putting in the hours and burning the midnight oil. He is very, very well prepared, and he gives us a great insight into the offense that we are running. He understands the offense from top to bottom, every single position. I am amazed how much he knows about the offensive line. I mean, we have some great discussions about offensive line play, and some of the things he says to me are very critical in us getting the job done. I mean, it's very detailed. Good. So, I get a lot of input from him, and I am on the headphones with him at the game, so I enjoy that because I get to hear his thought process as we're implementing our game plan for that game. Mm-hmm. But he does the practice plans. He does all the work on huddle. I mean, he does a tremendous amount of work, and we are well prepared, and the practices are sharp. We go from one period to another without any downtime. We're always moving. Kids are always involved, and we do have a great offensive practice, and the tempo is there because the offense we run, we have to practice it like we're going to play. Good. Our other offensive coach is Armani Richardson. He played at Manchester High School himself. He went to Kane University, was an outstanding football player there. He comes to us from the defensive side of the ball this year, and we are ecstatic. He is a very, very good young football coach. He has the right demeanor. He has an emotional coaching side to him, and he has a very good rapport with the players, like you mentioned before, not as a friend, but as a coach. He gets them to want to play for him. He gets the respect from his players, and he's very, very knowledgeable, and he's a very hardworking coach. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be a big asset to us on the offensive side of the ball this year, and we're excited because he's going to coach the receivers, and I expect some big things. We had some talented receivers last year. We had 4. We lost 4 to graduation. So we're going to be rebuilding at that position.
We'll be talking about that in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got his hands full, but he is a technician, and he is going to make those young kids work, and they're going to be the next man up, and we expect big things. So I'm excited about our coaching staff, and our meetings are productive, and we do have our workouts periodically during the week, and so far so good. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
And then add you to the mix, but O-line, that's a very, 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 very experienced and very good offensive.
It's like 2 centuries worth of coaching there, Coach Davis.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Seems like.
How about your freshman coaches? I don't. Did you guys talk about your freshman coaches?
No, we didn't mention, but I coached freshman last year. So Eric Lang is one of the coaches that I coached with last year. And he did a great job. He did the quarterbacks and the D line last year, and he did a great job. We at the freshman level last year we were 3-3, and he was young. He's coached basketball. He never played football, never coached football. So last year was his first year, and he was very eager to learn. So it's always good, someone has. I feel like if you coach a sport, as long as you're willing to learn, you can coach almost any sport because a lot of things can kind of mix in. And he was very willing to, sit down, we had some Google Meets because it was during the COVID time. And we went over a lot of things. He does a great job, and he's going to do another great job this year with the freshmen.
That's a nice job talking about your 2021 Manchester Township High School football coaching staff. Hey, now we're going to talk a little 2021 Manchester football. And we're going to break it up offense, defense with our two offensive defensive coaches here. Okay, first, Coach Stratton, tell me a little bit. Tell me your offensive philosophy, what you guys run, and then a little bit about the returning starters that you got that you're real excited about.
Okay, it's always been my philosophy since I started coaching out with Coach Wilk that we most teams, when they get the ball, they start 1st and 10. We like to consider we start first and goal, no matter where we are. We try to make sure that we run a perfect play every play. And we are very fortunate this year because we run a high-powered offense. It's a lot of fun. The ball is in the air a lot. I remember when we played Pinelands last year, we didn't run a running play to halfway through the second quarter. I think our first 22 plays were all pass plays. We like the ball in the air. We have athletic kids. We have a lot of good team speed. We run that air raid offense, but we run certain things out of it as well. We implement it. We made it our own. We have a power running game, and we have a 4-5 wide, receiving game, passing game. I mean, we'll be empty, one back, and we are going to RPO. We're going to read the defense, and we're going to make a decision and decide which play works best for us.
You're very multiple, yeah.
We're fortunate because we have a quarterback coming back this year that has a year in our system now, and he's gonna explode on the scenes this year.
Yeah, Savon's a good looking. Was he 6'5" now? 225 around that.
All I know is he's way taller than me.
Yeah.
he's a big player, and I'm telling you what, I wouldn't want to tackle him.
Yeah, you guys got some key guys back. I know Pesos is an offensive lineman, and I can't. You're going to see one of his clips in the beginning of this show where he's actually drive blocking a guy into the sidelines. He is a really, really strong, athletic, returning, one of the top players in the short conference, I would say, offense and defensive line. And with your quarterback, Savon, I hope he's saying the name right, and Damari Brown on the perimeter, you got some dudes offensively, and I know you have a couple other key guys that – will showcase themselves this year. Nice. Coach Malek, defensively, just tell us what schemes you guys run and a couple of other key guys you got coming back.
All right. Well, like I said, I'm new to the varsity, and we graduate quite a bit of kids, but we're excited about some of the younger kids that were on the JV team and maybe got a little bit of playing time and the freshman class that is moving up. Obviously, it's hard to rely on a lot of sophomores, but we feel, some of them may be able to help us this year, whether it be defense, special teams, or whatever. But we run defensively a 3-3-5. And our biggest goal on defense, everybody does their own thing, but I think Coach Wilk, and it goes back to one of the South, the biggest thing we want to get our defensive guys is to be able to tackle and be able to run to the football. After that, that's the biggest thing is getting as many hats to the play before that film clip cuts off. So getting the guys to run and getting the guys to tackle. Because if you can do those two things, it really doesn't matter what you do schematically because, a lot of that hustle and tackling can make up for a lot of mistakes. So, and the guys we have coming back on the D-line is Kingborn Morris and DeAndre Johnson, who are two guys that are epitome of our defensive philosophy as far as running to the football and tackling.
And Coach and Pesos you got back too. Your D-line is going to be one of the best in Ocean County.
Yeah, and I know Brian's big philosophy, and it's a great philosophy, and I think most coaches try to do it if they can, is try to get as many one-way guys as possible to keep guys fresh. So that has always been Coach Wilk's philosophy, even back to going when I was at Tom's River South, is if we can get 22 guys playing, that's not always the case. So, yes, Pesos will probably play some defense, but if we can get some other guys to give him a rest, obviously that would be helpful. And then in the secondary, we've got Damari Brown, who started since his freshman year. who's again, I'm kind of excited coaching secondary, getting a chance to coach him. I saw him a little last year, and he's an excellent player and a smart player. Like he recognizes things that you need to be recognized. He's a communicator and another guy that tackles well and runs to the football, and he's a good leader. He's one of those guys that if he's talking to kids, he talks to them in the right way. Sometimes you have leaders that all they do is yell, and kids don't necessarily want to play for him. He has a way of carrying himself where kids kind of follow him. So, with those three guys coming back, you got a good examples, and hopefully we can fill in some of the other spots that are missing, and we can continue with the philosophy that Coach Wilk would like to have on defense. And again, that is to run to the football and tackle.
Yeah. And Coach Stratton, that kicker you got is outstanding.
Yeah, we have some of the guys coming back on offense. We do have 3 starters. We were really hit hard by graduation. We were a senior-dominated offense, and we had some talented kids. And up front, I had 3 seniors that were just incredible. Mm-hmm. I had a great deal of pleasure coaching those guys this year. But we do have 3 guys coming back. We have Justin Mayer, we have Dave Laranjara, and we have Chris Pesos. And I've been coaching offensive line, as you know, for a long time, and I sent you that clip of him because that might have been the most incredible single block that I've ever seen a player, and I've seen some great ones from my guys at Lacey.
It's like the blind side, that one clip where he drives the guy all down the field.
He drove a player from Keensburg from the 13-yard line out of the end zone, off of the clip. You see him drive the kid right out of the end zone. It was one of the best technical drive blocks that I've ever seen, not less coached. And, he's like that every play. He's one of the only players that ever pancaked me. My first day of practice, of course, I don't realize that, I haven't been there in a while, and I'm holding the bag, and we were going over trap blocks, and 2 somersaults later, I go, I don't think I'm going to do that again. I'll let some of the players hold the bag. But again, we have Damari playing receiver for us. We have Kingborn in the backfield. And we have Savon at quarterback, and Savon at quarterback, and we're going to expect some really, really big things offensively. And then if we don't get an opportunity to knock it in, we have a field goal kicker that is good from 45 yards in and accurate. He had some big kicks for us last year, Evan Weiner, and he kicked a 42-yarder against Keensburg. At the point in time, it was a huge kick that gave us a 2-score lead, and he has the ability to pin people deep with kickoffs and things of that nature. So not only are we pretty talented on offense and defense, we have great special teams to boot.
Yeah, you got 5 returning first-team all-division players. You got your quarterback, Savon Myers. You got Damari Brown. Was it Chris Pesos? You got Kingborn Morris and Evan, what's his last name? Weiner. 5 guys back with that. But here's the thing that kind of makes you guys very, very potent is that Manchester has a very good up front on O-line and D-line, and that's scary with the mix of athletes you have on the perimeter. And that's why you won a championship last year, is because you guys were very good against the run and you were good with the run, and that's great. So having that with your athletes, you got to be very excited about this year.
And
right?
we also have a great athletic director in Keith Lister. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is at every practice, every game, always making sure that we're taken care of. And I'll tell you what, we have a great community. And, having coached against Manchester, you never knew what to expect. I was at Lacey, and we had some pretty good years when we played Manchester. But once I got there and I saw the school community, the players, their families, and it's a fun place to be. And you know what? They're starting to believe. Coach Wilkinson has it going there. And, last year was big, and we're expecting, to continue that. And people are buying into our program now. And we're excited. And that's one of the reasons I came back, because Coach, I believe in Coach, and there's not many guys that could have got me out of retirement. He may be the only one. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad he did, and I'm happy to be there. I know Coach is happy to be there. I love coaching again with Coach Malek. Now when we can get you out of retirement, you come join us. It'll be like the old days and be home again.
Listen, I like doing this. No parents complaining to me at all. I'm not winning or losing. Well, we'll see. But hey, guys, this was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys coming on our talk show right here. And I wish you guys the very best. And listen, I talk to you guys off the show all the time, and thank you for doing what you did to me all the years. I appreciate it. And again, relationships are very important in coaching. not just with the players, but with coaches. And that's what most of our guys that we hang out with, us coaches, are guys we have coached with. And you guys affected a lot of people, and I'm one of them. So thank you very much.
Well, you enjoy your semi-coaching retirement. Enjoy that great family you have and your great wife. You're a very fortunate guy, and they're going to be real lucky to have you around more now. I'm sure they're excited.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Hey, tell Coach Wilkie I said hello, and I'm going to come visit you guys real soon, and definitely watch a lot of your competitive division games. Thank you. These are two great successful coaches. Again, Manchester assistant coaches, Coach Stratton, the O-line coach, and Coach Tom Malek, the defensive back coach. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.